Abba Yahuwah, I just want to praise and thank you for this evening, my Father. I praise and I thank you for what you are doing in our lives in this hour, Father. I praise and I thank you, my Father, because I know that everything that's going to shake will be shaken, because when your presence is going to come, when you came with all your power and all your glory on Mount Sinai, to this day, on that mountain, Jabal Eloz, which is the real Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, it is burnt. The mountain is burnt at the top of the mountain where you manifested your glory. Father, I just want to thank you because all you want to do is to reveal yourself to your people. Your heart is right now crying out for your people. That your people can just come to a place of truly just coming to know you. This is the hour of where you are wanting to be able to reveal yourself, that your presence will be made manifest. That you alone come and meet with your people in such a powerful way that when a person has a divine encounter with you, they can never be the same. Father, I really am praying that you will come and reveal yourself to your people. Father, I ask you to please forgive us. Forgive us for what we seek for more than we seek for you. Forgive us for if we seek for anything more than we seek for you. We're just no different to this genie, like seeking a genie in a bottle. Father, it's not about the fact that we need to seek you because we want manifestations. Many times we seek you because we want manifestations. Forgive us, Father, for seeking your hand. We all come to you in our different areas of need. But Father, we want to come to you because we truly want to be a people that want to be able to be submitted and surrendered to you. To be able to be your hands extended, to be able to be your eyes extended, to be able to be your mouth extended, to be able to be your feet extended. We want to come to you because we truly love you. And so that you may have a body in which you may dwell. Father, I know that you're not just looking for a people that you can visit with. Because gone are the days as well of visitation. You way past visitation. You don't want to visit your people anymore. You want habitation. And when you drew your people up to Mount Sinai, when you came and you called them up to come to Mount Sinai, you were looking for a set-apart people. You wanted a set-apart people. You even told Moses to set them apart, to clean them up so that they could be presented before you. Father, why is that not the order of the day? Why do we downplay that so much that it's like it's not important for a person to be set apart? You are a holy Yah, yet we want to stand before you in not being set apart to you at all, in just come as you are. You don't need to clean yourself up. We come as you are before you, but you want us to clean ourselves up. Even when these Israelites were to stand before you, they were not allowed to come without cleaning themselves up. They had to be set apart. But we have downplayed set apartness. Why, my Father? If this is what you've called me to do, Abba, if this is what I'm called to do, to be able to bring back your reverence, your holiness, your set-apartness, that you are a set-apart holy Yah. You are so merciful and you are so kind that you still answer all our prayers, even when we have not made it our goal to be set apart unto you, because we've made it about everything else, but we haven't really focused on set apartness to you. And yet, in your merciful and in your mercy and in your kindness, because you are merciful, you are loving and you are kind, you will answer our prayer. But you say in your word, no one is going to see you unless they have a pure heart and clean hands. You have said in your word that you are looking for a set-apart people, because you said, be set apart as I'm set apart. And Father, this is what you are wanting to reveal to us tonight. You set Adam and Eve apart. Why did Cain kill Abel? Cain killed Abel because Abel was trying to be set apart to you. He was trying to do what was right. And because he was wanting to do what was right, jealousy came up into Cain that went to kill his brother. And so the world will want to kill set apartness because it doesn't understand it. It will say we don't need to do that because it's all been paid for. So we can just be lawless. We can just be whatever we want to be, and it's okay because you answer prayer, because you move mightily through your earthen vessels. But you've made me understand that you will still move mightily with earthen vessels, even if they're not walking set apart before you. Because you are a loving and a merciful Yah, and you are a Yah that answers prayer. And if we do not understand a perfect scale that's got to be balanced, and Yeshua is the perfect scale that is balanced, and you want to bring us into balance so that we may understand the fullness of your gospel. And without that we will have nothing, because we will either tilt on the one side or we will either tilt on the other side. But my Father, I ask you now, please help us to be perfectly balanced for you. Some people are fully on the one side, other people are fully on the other side. But now we need to meet you in the middle and understand that we need to be balanced with you, because you are. You give us a foundation, and you are spirit and you are truth. Help us, my Father, to walk this fully out, my Father, I pray. Give us the eyes to understand, to see, to understand. Give us the mind of understanding. Give us a pure heart, a heart that will be open to your purposes and your plans and your ways, my Father. Oh, Father, we so desperately need you. We so desperately need to see things through your perspective and not through our own eyes. Our eyes are deceived by so many doctrines of demons and so many things that we see and so many things that we hear. We are deceived, and there's so much deception out there. We want to be able to walk in your truths, and only in the truth of your word, balanced out the way that it needs to be. Spirit and truth in everything, Father. We don't want to be tilted in any way. The world is spinning out of control, and we need to hold on to the hem of your garment and ask you, Father, to please come and lead us in your righteousness in everything that we do. And so I praise and I thank you, Father, that you alone will be able to come and have your way in us. In Yeshua's name I pray this. Amen. Amen. Praise Abba. So last week we were looking at this very scripture in Exodus chapter 19 verses 10, and it says, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, go to the people and set them apart today and tomorrow, and they shall wash their garments. And we came to understand that the washing of their garments is having to be able to, it's coming back to Revelation. And we read that Revelation chapter 22 verses 14 from other scriptures. So if you go read it from an NIV, if you go read it from the Amplified, if you're going to go read it from the Complete Jewish Bible, if you go read that scripture in most of your translations, it's going to say those who wash their robes. But if you go look at the New King James, if you look at the King James, if you look at the New King James, even in the Amplified, it says there wash robes, and then in brackets it says commands. So I can't understand for the life of me why they decided to remove those who obey his commands, because you see, I can understand, because that is the work of the enemy. Remember, the enemy's plan from the beginning is just to get you to disobey the Father's word. If you disobey the Father's word, the time that you are when you are a threat to him is when you walk in obedience to the Father. Then you are a threat. And then he does everything in his power to come and make sure that he can trip you up to take you out of being obedient to the Father. That's what he does. That's what he's busy doing. And so he doesn't care that you do all these things. Just don't obey the Father. Because if you obey the Father, wow, then you are a threat to him. Because his game from the beginning, from the Garden of Eden, was to be able to get Adam and Eve to disobey so that they would get kicked out of that garden. So understand, he knows the end of the book. He knows that it says those doing his commandments will be those that will be eating from the tree of life. So what is his plan from the beginning? That's why throughout the centuries, throughout the generations, more and more the commands are being tampered with. So we don't need to be able to keep the Sabbath. Now all of a sudden it's like everything is just being twisted. We can even live a lie within ourselves and say that we are a man when we are a woman, and say that we are a woman when we are a man, and live in a lie. And now we're forced to lie. We're forced to lie. And if you don't lie, you can be put in jail. As there was this little video that I watched of the persecution that's coming, especially in a lot of the churches in America that are standing against this whole move that's going on at the moment, which is the greatest Sodom and Gomorrah coming upon us than what there's been. And now we are forced even to lie. So you can't even call the person a man when it is a man, because it's an it, and we don't want to say that it's a man, or we don't want to say it's a woman. We have to call it something else. Or we'll call a man that is actually a man, we'll call it a woman, but it will be a man. And now we are called to lie. So the devil is just going to put us in a place of being able to get us further and further to break these commands. So we can go ahead and do all the things that we do, but it's not murder. It's not lying. It's not stealing. It's not killing. It's not any of this. Because right now, the enemy wants us to be in a place where he can get us to just not obey the Father. And so don't you think he studies this word to be able to know what is here so that he can trip us up with doctrines of demons to be able to come and get us to disobey? Because that's the easiest thing to do. Just go believe some kind of lie. So let's get everybody now that's going to start Sunday worship, let's take them away from being obedient to a Shabbat. Let's give them another day to worship in the week, so that we can now start turning around and saying, well, this is the new Sabbath day, or I can have Sabbath any day I want. And then do what we like, because the devil wants us to disobey. Do you not understand that that is his plan? So everything about what the enemy is doing in this very age that we're living in is to get us to become more and more rebellious, so that we can even be the children of the Most High. We can even serve the Most High, but yet still be in rebellion against His word. And we can do great and mighty things for Him, yet still be in rebellion against the word. But we have to understand that it's only because our scales are not balanced. It's only because nobody's ever taught us that we are supposed to have balance with this word. We cannot tilt it from the one side to the other. We cannot turn around and say, well, let's throw out the Old Testament because it's not important anymore. It's the Old Testament that has to do with law, that has to do with instruction. So now we're going to throw out the instructions and we're going to take on grace, which is the New Testament. So now I'm going to take the New Testament, which they will call the New Testament, which we will understand that it is the renewed covenant, that we will understand that it's just a renewed covenant, but that they will call it a New Testament. So this was already the deception of the devil. Let's call it a New Testament. Let's not call it a renewed covenant. And let's say the old is not necessary. So let's call it law, so that we don't want laws. That's why people are rebellious, because we don't want laws. So let's throw out laws and let's get them to focus only on grace. And now they follow Messiah with only grace. And to some it's working very well. But at the end of the day, the scale is still tilted. It's now going to tilt only on grace. And then you've got others that now want the law, so we're returning back to the Torah, but then somehow we tend to forget grace. We tend to forget the way of the Spirit. We tend to forget to be led by the Spirit of Yahuwah. We tend to forget that we're supposed to be spiritual beings. We tend to forget that we are supposed to have mercy. That we are supposed to show mercy. That we are supposed to be compassionate and merciful beings. But now we go on righteousness, 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 and then we forget mercy. And then we want judgments, but we forget mercy. Father came up against the Israelites because they would not have mercy. They did not want to show mercy. So one of the things that I always do is I say, Father, in your judgments, remember mercy. Father is in a time of judgment, but remember, He loves His people to want to show mercy. He's always been a merciful Yah. He will always show mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment because He's merciful. He extends where He judges us to the 4th and the 5th generation, but He brings His blessing to 1,000 generations. Because He's merciful, He's gracious, and He's kind. And this is the Yah that we serve. But you see, when we start to focus too much on Torah only, and this is what I have now really sat, and Father is really opening up my understanding to say, my child, be very careful that you do not become self-righteous. And because of your self-righteous attitude, you don't show mercy towards my people, because be careful, where did you come from? Just when you think you stand, be careful lest you fall. Because at the end of the day, we need to show mercy, because we've all come from a place of where we did not have the revelation of the truth that we have now. So the Father is wanting to set a people apart. And that's why he said, set them apart. So Exodus chapter 19, it was to be set apart. And they were to wash their garments. And so we looked last week that this is tied into his commands. And being set apart, they had to wash themselves. And washing their robes was coming back to the Father's commands. So it's set apartness. It has everything to do with set apartness. And to be set apart is to being able to become more set apart by the Father. So he said, you need to go look at this set apartness. And so today we're going to look at this set apartness, because we must understand that from here already, Father was wanting to set apart a people, because this is exactly what he says. We tend to forget that. It says, and if you diligently obey my voice, so we take that and we guard his commands, his covenant, we take that, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a reign of priests, a set apart nation. So the Father wants a set apart people. And this is what is significant that we need to look at, set apart. So if we look at if we go look at John chapter 17, so Father is wanting to set apart a people. So this is the people that the Father has just taken out of the land of Mitzrayim. He's brought them into the wilderness, and what is his heart's desire? Set them apart. Set them apart for 3 days. Let them wash themselves to stand before me. So let's look and see, does Yeshua do something different? So would this not be the same desire that is upon Abba's heart, is the same desire that would be upon the Father's heart throughout the Scripture? Remember, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not change. So if we look at John chapter 17, and we keep covering this, John chapter 17 verse 11 says, and I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to you. Set apart Father. Our Father is set apart. Be set apart as he set apart. Set apart Father. Guard them in your name, which you have given me, so that they might be one as we are one. So imagine, he's guarding them in his name, and he's the set apart one. He's the set apart one guarding them in his name. So do you see, set apart and the name is important, because in verse 6 he says, I revealed your name to them, to whom you gave me out of the world. So being set apart in what? In his name, set apart in his truths. So how do you come onto a set apart journey without being revealed his name? Because he's the set apart one that is going to reveal his name. And he's the one who set apart, having to set us apart in his name. Verse 17, set them apart in your truth. Your word is truth. So we need to be set apart in his truth. So we're being set apart in truth. So that is why we are learning the truth of his word, so that we can be set apart in truth. But understand, while we are being set apart in truth, we are not void of being able to walk with the Ruach of Yahuwah. We're not void of being able to be used by the Father for his purposes and his plans. The more set apart we're becoming, the more we should be able to be used by him. And now I'm standing back and I'm saying, Father, I don't understand. Now I want to tell you my observation. Father, how come is it? Now I'm going to tell you what I'm observing, where I am in what I'm going through. Father, why is it that I don't see many people really doing mighty things for your kingdom in a Torah movement, apart from the fact that they're just very much knowledge. They have a lot of knowledge of your word. But at the end of the day, knowledge also puffs up. Knowledge can also make a person prideful. But what are they really doing for your kingdom? That's my observation right now. So where are they walking and making a difference in your kingdom? Where are they walking as your disciples walked? Where are they walking to heal the sick, to raise the dead, to cast out demons, to do all of this? So do you hear where I'm saying, if you are learning what you're learning so that you can just have more knowledge of who He is without having the intimacy of walking with Him, then that knowledge is just going to puff you up. And this is what's happening in the Torah movement, and this is what I'm observing, what Father's showing. Because if we have just come onto this path to pride ourselves to say, I am the bride, but at the end of the day, what have I done for His kingdom? What? Just because I'm now keeping the feasts, I'm keeping His Sabbath, I'm doing all these things, but where am I His hands extended? Where am I His feet extended? Where am I being used by the Father? Do you see your scale? Do you see your scale? Do you see your scale of spirit and truth? I might be walking in the truth, but where am I walking in the Spirit? What am I doing for my fellow human being? Where have I laid down my life for my brother? Where am I doing all of that? So, are we just coming into another religion? Because we were never supposed to come into this, to be set apart in truth, to come into another religion, to be able to say, well, now I'm Messianic, or now I am Torah observant. We are supposed to be following Messiah. So following Messiah means I follow Him in truth because I'm set apart in truth to follow Him fully. So therefore, I still pick up my cross, my stake, and I have to die to my flesh on a daily basis. Am I crucifying my flesh man? Because my flesh man must also become set apart, not just my life in terms of my obedience, in terms of what I'm doing in obeying certain scriptures, but I'm not obeying in other scriptures. This is a total package, beloveds. And this is why we're now going to be able to have to understand that the Father is wanting to reveal Exodus to us, not so that we can just get another revelation of Exodus, but so that we can understand that this is about being able to be taught for applying. So we are going to keep His commands, but we are to become set apart. For what reason are we becoming set apart? Because we have to be able to crucify our mind, our thought patterns. Why do we still allow things to come into our mind and torment us if we've died with Messiah Yahushua? Why? Why do we still allow our emotions to run away with us and still get bent out of shape when someone does something or says something, and now we are all going into bitterness and anger and excuse me, unforgiveness and everything else? Why? Now we've got to do 7 stages of 70 times 7 course to get rid of unforgiveness, when it's just something that we should literally just walk in. Because if Yeshua is living in me and I've died in Him, then why am I not forgiving my brother when I'm called to love my brother? Do you understand? Where are we? We have to be set apart To be set apart is now being able to understand. We are not just being set apart in the truth of this word in terms of Torah. We are to be set apart in the truth of His word in terms of the fullness of this word. Also with the flesh man. This flesh man that is in enmity against the Father, because I is on a throne and I needs to die with Messiah. And it's no longer I that live, but Messiah Yahushua who lives in me and through me, the hope of glory. So when am I going to become the glorious being that He created me to be? When I get out of the way. See, that flesh man needs to die to allow the perfection of what He has done, His perfection of His fullness, His death and resurrection that needs to work in me, to crucify everything in me. So I will put this word into practice to become fully set apart with a perfect scale, law, instructions, and grace. Fullness. Because we need to walk by the Spirit. That's why I say it's spirit and truth. We need to walk in the truth of His word, but we need to walk by the Spirit of Yahuwah, because it's only by the Ruach that He comes and crucifies our flesh man to say, why are you still behaving like one who's never been crucified? Why is that old man still alive when it's supposed to be dead? Why do you allow the old man to come forth? Why are you still griping with rejection? Why are you still griping with all these things that should have been gone long time ago? Why? Why are you doing all of that? Why? I thought you were dead. Do you understand? So the Father is saying, my child, you need to bring the balance of the two together. And this is what we must understand. So we are being sanctified. So listen to what it means to be sanctified. So what is sanctification? So to be sanctified. So if we take the word sanctified, it's hagioso. And that is to separate from profane things. So we're to separate from that which is profane. We are to be dedicated to Yahuwah, consecrated to Yahuwah. We are to be purified. We are to be cleansed. Internally and externally. So we worry about what the internal man is, but what about the external man? Now we will turn around and say, well, you know what? We are sanctified for the Father, but man, it's okay. I can just go and tattoo my body because it's my body. Really? I thought you were bought with a price. So how do you go and pierce it all over and go and put all these tattoos on you, all that you want, because it's your body? Are you allowed to do anything to it that you do not have permission to do, because it's not your body? You are bought with a price. It's not yours. You don't have the right to do whatever you do with it. But you see, we have this arrogance that I'm the master of my own life. I haven't been bought with a price, and this is why our mindset has got to change. So he says, internally and externally. So we need to purify ourselves internally and externally by renewing our soul, by renewing our mind, our will, our emotions. So if our mind is going to the devil, the biggest battlefield for a person is the mind. Because the devil is going to play little tricks on you and say, oh, but the Father doesn't really love you. Don't you understand? Oh, do you see, you are not over this. So you've already been prayed for how many times? You've already received deliverance how many times? But now all of a sudden, here comes the same thing, and then you think, oh no, I'm not delivered. Now the enemy is going to keep tripping you up until you take a stand and say, I choose to submit to what the word says, and I choose not to entertain this thought. Get behind me, Satan! I've been delivered. I've been bought with the price by the blood of Yahushua. And to make holy, consecrate, and to sanctify. So we are to be renewing our soul man. So our mind needs to change, our will needs to change, our emotions need to change to line up with the word of Yahuwah. And this is the place that now He's going to start. You see, it doesn't help us just to be able to bring in line the fact that now we're starting to be obedient to the word in terms of we're returning back to Torah. Because there's many people that are returning back to Torah but still live like a devil every day. There's no love of the Father in their hearts. But man, they pride themselves that they keep this Torah, but the flesh man has never been yielded as much to the Father. Their emotions haven't been yielded. Their mind hasn't been yielded. And I am still on the throne. In Leviticus chapter 19 verses 2. So if we go to Leviticus chapter 19 verses 2, let's just see, because the Father says, be holy as I'm holy. So Leviticus chapter 19 says, speak to the congregation of the children of Israel and say to them, be set apart, for I, Yahuwah your Elohim, am set apart. So if He's set apart in truth and set apart in the fullness of this Bible from Genesis to Revelation, then what are we doing differently? We're supposed to be becoming more and more like Messiah Yahushua. So if we are not becoming more and more like Messiah Yahushua, then what are we doing? Are we just getting truth for the sake of getting truth because I need truth for me to be able to just have the knowledge of who the Father is? Do we come and listen to the Word because we need to have more knowledge of who He is? Or do we come and listen to the Word because the Word is supposed to convict me so that I can become more like Him? Because at the end of the day, this is what we need to do. We are supposed to be becoming more like Him. And let me tell you something. The Father at the moment is going to draw the line. That is why He's got a remnant. Because at the end of the day, there's too many people, especially people that I know, that might walk Torah. But in character, they're nowhere near like Messiah Yahushua. But they can pride themselves in also thinking that they are the bride because now they've returned back to the commands. Well, then you're missing the very first two commands. To love Abba Yahuwah with all your heart. Do you really come and do what you do because you love Him? Because let me tell you something. Everything else that you're doing just to try and please Him, you are missing the mark. If you don't love Him above everything else, you are missing the mark. Because everything hangs on the two commands. Loving Abba Yahuwah and loving your neighbor as you love yourself. And this is what we must understand. And so this is what the Father is requiring of us. This is what the Father wants of us, is that we will be able to come and surrender all to Him. So sanctification, let's look at sanctification. Sanctification means set apart. So we are to be set apart as He's set apart. So what is sanctification? Sanctification means set apart is the word in Hebrew for kadosh. We are to be set apart as He's set apart, which is the word kadosh. And the word kadosh means to consecrate, to sanctify, to dedicate, to be hallowed, to be holy, to be sanctified, to be separate, to show oneself sacred, to be holy. That means set apart. So, sanctification in itself, if you want to understand sanctification in itself, it means that we are being set apart unto Yah, that we are set apart from all else and dedicated to Yahuwah's use. Listen carefully. You are being set apart from all else, and you are being dedicated for Yah's use, which means your will has to be laid down to allow Him to have His will in you, to say, Yah, Abba Father, I am. What do you have for me to do? I am here to serve you, and I'm here to serve your people, because you've come to serve Him and to serve His people. You are not on this earth to serve yourself. You were not put on this earth for your self-enrichment. You were put on this earth for Him and for His people. So everything belongs to Him. And you are to say, okay, Father, what do you want me to do with even the resources that you've given me? Because those resources is His. Freely He is given, and freely He will take away. Do you understand? Deuteronomy chapter 8, they were in the wilderness in order for them to be able to be tested, so that they would understand that nothing was given to them that was theirs. It was by grace that He's the one who took care of them. But we start to become very arrogant in thinking we deserve everything. We don't deserve anything except His grace and His mercy. So He says, being set apart unto Yah, set apart from all else and dedicated to Yah's use. What is set apart unto Yah? What is set apart unto Yah is not contaminated by the corruption of the world. So what is set apart unto Yahuwah is not contaminated by the corruption of this world. So you do not make your own decisions, you do not go your own way, you do not do your own thing, because you've been bought with a price, and the price is the blood of Yeshua. You are not your own. And its influence. So you are not contaminated by the corruption of this world and its influence. It is wholly set apart unto Him. In purity, we are morally good and walk righteous. We obey His commands. So we obey His commands, His spoken word, His written word. What is it that the Father's asked you to do maybe 20 years ago that you're still not doing? What is it that the Father requires of you that you are still not doing because you're still procrastinating? What is it that the Father has called you to in this hour, so that you can make a difference in the world that we're living in right now? Because you've been put here with a purpose and with a plan. And we are not supposed to be islands on our own. We are supposed to be part of the Father's bigger vision and bigger picture. So we are morally good. It is wholly set apart unto Him in purity. We are morally good and walk righteous when we obey His commands. Abba tells us to be set apart because He is set apart. Let's look at 1 Peter chapter 1. 1 Peter chapter 1. Peter chapter 1, and we are going to read from verses 13, and it says, Therefore, having girded up the loins of your mind. So you see, we've got to transform our mind, being sober, and set your expectation perfectly upon the favor, the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Yeshua Messiah. So the grace of Messiah Yahushua that was revealed to us as obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lusts in your ignorance. If we are still struggling with the lusts of the flesh, now is an hour more than ever to get rid of it. Instead, as the one who called you is set apart, Yeshua said, Father, I set him apart. He set us apart in truth. He says, set them apart in truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, I also send them into the world. So we've got to be sent into the world. And for them, I set myself apart. Yeshua set himself apart for us. Now, if Yeshua lives within us, then how are we not set apart? For them, I set myself apart, so that they too might be set apart in truth. And I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who believing in me through their word, so that they might be one, as you, Father, are in me and I in you, on that too might be one. So why are we not one? Because we don't come back to truth. Because we don't die to the flesh. Because each one is trying to be chief. Each one is trying to be able to say, but it's my truth and my truth and my truth. And we don't want to submit to the truth of the word. Because it's just doctrines. More doctrines and more doctrines. But the word speaks for itself. But we will not submit to the word. If we all sit in a room and we all read the word, I can tell you now, we will all come to the revelation of the truth, because the word is the word. You cannot deny the word. I mean, that's why I said you can reveal to the person that there's the name of Jeremiah is Yahoo, but the person will still say his name is Yahweh. But it's Yahoo. Yahoo. Yudai is Yahoo, but we will still say Yahweh. And then still argue that his name is Yahweh. And then still argue that his name is Yahweh. And then still argue that his name is Yehovah. But his Yudai Vav says it's Yahoo. Eliyahu, Yeremiyahu, Matanyahu, Yeshayahu, it's Yahoo. But we will say that it's Yahweh. Why will we do that? Because we will not want to bow to what we know. Because this is what we've been taught. This is what we know, and nobody wants to be able to bow. Because of our arrogance. Because we're arrogant. Because nobody wants to submit. Nobody wants to submit. We can sit in a room and we can reveal truth. But because of my mindset, I will not change. Because my mindset tells me, but I've always learned to say it like this. So I will say it like this because this is what my revelation is, because that's what I received. Even if you're telling the person, but this is the way it is, it's Yahoo. The Vav is a woo sound. Man, you can tell them until you blue in the face and they will continue with Yahweh. Why? Rebellion. I don't want to submit, even if the truth faces me. So therefore we will all be divided, because nobody wants to submit. And this is exactly what Yeshua is saying. Father, so that all might be one, as you, Father, are in me and I in you, so that they too might be one in us, so that the world might believe that you have sent me, so that we cannot be divided. Then you wonder why the world is not wanting to see Messiah, because you all have different doctrines and you all, want to believe these different things, and who do we believe anyway? And the time has got to come that we get off our high horses. Come back to the truth. So we get back to 1 Peter. So he says, and if you call on the Father, who without partiality, so he says, because it has been written, be set apart, for I am set apart. If you call on the Father, who without partiality judges according to each one's work. So I understand the Father's going to judge each one's work. Pass the time of your sojourning in fear. Wow. Please just make a note of that. Pass the time of your sojourning while you're on this earth with fear. Because you are going to stand before a loving Yah, and He's going to judge you for the work that you have done. Listen to what He says. Let's read it again. And if you call on the Father, who without partiality judges according to each one's work, pass the time of your sojourning in fear. And we are going to understand this, because it's the fear of Yahuwah that we truly need. It was the fear of Yahuwah that needed to come upon Mount Sinai for the people to truly want to be able to follow him. And the fear of Yahuwah is no longer there, because it's all about grace, 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 grace. And now because I have grace, I don't fear him. I will do whatever I want, and he loves me, and he's going to accept me, and then there's no consequences to anything that I do that is wrong. How do you... If you love your child, you want to discipline your child. You want to bring up a child in the way that he's to be brought up, so that he doesn't depart from the Father. But now we don't want any rules. We want to say all of this in the beginning of the Bible is all done away with. We don't need anything. Let's just focus on Yeshua. How do you focus on Yeshua and walk as he did, when he walked in these truths of this word, and yet you don't? But it's not to say that he will not use you. He will even use a donkey, and he will do mighty and great things through a donkey. Never judge your right standing with him based on how he uses you, because he will even use a donkey. But he's going to judge the work that we're busy doing. Knowing that you were redeemed from your futile behavior. So see, our behavior is what the Father needs to deal with. Do we truly believe him? Do we truly take him at his word? Inherited from your fathers, not with what is corruptible, silver or gold. So we've got a lot of stuff that has been inherited from our fathers that we need to unlearn. But with the precious blood of Messiah, as of the Lamb, unblemished and spotless. Foreknown indeed before the foundations of the world, but manifested in these last days for your sakes. Who through him believe in Yahuwah, who raised him from the dead and gave him esteem, gave him glory, so that your belief and expectation are in Yahuwah. Now that you have cleansed your lives in obeying the truth. So you see, only when you obey the truth do you really get cleansed. So we got to come back to the truth of the word so that we may be cleansed. Now that you have cleansed your lives in obeying the truth through the spirit of the unfeigned brotherly love, that unfeigned, it's sincere, without hypocrisy, it's pure, it's purified by fire. There's no pretense. It's been pruned. And it's free from all deceit. So it's a brotherly love. It's not a brotherly love that's going to stab the other one in the back because it wants to rather see itself as being better than the other one. What the heck? Brotherly love. That I am on the same team. I am building this kingdom for the Father. And if you're not convinced of that, well then I don't know. We're supposed to be one house for the Father, made up of 12 tribes. Love one another fervently with a clean heart. So the Father wants us to love one another with a clean heart. So we are being purified, we are being cleansed in the truth. The truth which is spirit and truth. Having been born again, not of corruptible seed, but incorruptible, through the living word of Yahuwah, which remains forever. Because all flesh is grass, and all the esteem of man as the flower of the grass. The grass withers, and its flower falls away. But listen, the word of Yahuwah remains forever. That comes from Isaiah 40 verses 6 to 8. The word of Yahuwah remains forever. So how do we say that that is nailed to the cross? How do we say his ways are nailed to the cross? His laws, his keeping feasts is nailed to the cross. It's not important anymore. But yet we're going to do it in the millennial reign, but it's not important anymore. Zechariah chapter 14 tells you if you don't even go up for the feast, you will not receive rain on your land. But now we'll say it's all nailed to the cross, it's not important. But the word of Elohim remains forever, and this is the word announced as good news to you. Go to 1 John. 1 John chapter 2. From verses 15. Do not love the world, nor that which is in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. There's too many people that still have too much love for the things of this world. They live for the things of this world. And when I'm going to say to you, everything is going to be shaken, we are going to see the shaking. Because the mountain is going to shake. When the Father reveals himself, when the Father is going to reveal himself, everything that can be shaken is going to be shaken. Because all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. So at the end of the day, there are devout believers that are in the Christian church that might not know these Torah ways, but they truly have submitted and surrendered their lives and they live fully for Him. They might not know the ways of Torah, but they live fully for Him, and they are out there, being His hands extended, being His mouth extended, truly surrendered and submitted, living it for Him. They've denied themselves completely, and they have learned what it means to walk by His Spirit. But they are totally void of knowing the ways of the Father in returning back to His instructions. That is the foundation that they need, so they're missing a foundational pillar of truth. Then there are devout people in this Torah movement who have learned every single bit of knowledge that there is. My goodness, they've studied that Torah like they want to know every Hebrew word, and they want to know every Hebrew sound, and they want to know everything of that. Which is it going to help you to be able to become more intimate with the Father? If it's helping you in your intimacy with the Father, fair enough. If it's just giving you more knowledge to puff you up, then that's what it's going to do. And man, they pride themselves in keeping His Torah, and they keep His word down to the letter of the word, but totally void of the Ruach of Yahuwah. They go about their lives day by day, and they don't do anything for the Father's kingdom. They are oblivious to people around them. They do not live by the Spirit. They do not walk by the Spirit. They do not reach out to the Father's people, because they are totally and utterly void of the Spirit. They do not understand what it truly means to be able to submit and surrender fully to the leading of the Ruach of Yahuwah. So all they have is instructions. So they're going to eventually become no different to a Pharisee, because they have all these instructions, but when they see the miracles taking place, they're going to say, by what Spirit do you do this? Because they've become so learned in their minds with all the instructions that they are following. But yet at the end of the day, what did they do for the Father's kingdom? Do they even know what it means to be led by the Ruach of Yahuwah? Because they've actually quenched the Ruach of Yahuwah to such a degree that they're not led by the Ruach at all. And that is a very, very dangerous place to come to. And this is exactly what the Father is busy showing me now. And so we need to come back into this balance. If we have received the Torah to just pride ourselves in thinking we do all of this, but we're totally void of being able to be His hands extended and His feet extended on the earth, and we've missed the purpose of it altogether, because my Messiah came to lay His life down for people. And this is what we need to do. And so we're not learning these truths so that we can just become more learned in truths. We're not learning all this Torah portions so that we can just become a little bit more learned in knowing what all these Torah portions are all about. We're learning them to be able to teach us so that we can crucify our flesh and learn from what the mistakes that they have made, and so that we can serve our Father better. And understand, okay, what did Moses do? What did Abraham do? What did Jacob do? What did Joseph do? Let me learn from the things that is there so that I can better serve my Messiah. And better than that, are we reading through them so that we may be able to see our Messiah more fervently. And so that we can just go deeper in a relationship with Him. And so that is why He's saying, do not love the world, nor anything that is in the world, for the world passes away. Understand, everything is going to go up in smoke. The fire of His judgments is going to come upon this world, and it's going to burn up. And this world is going to shake, as we will see when the Father starts to speak with His voice, how the shaking and the trembling is going to come. And He says, the world passes away and the lusts of it, but the one doing the desire of a Lord remains forever. Are you doing the Father's desire? Can you actually look at yourself today and say, today I know I'm doing the Father's desire in my life? Little children, it is the last hour. This is the Father's message to you today. Little children, it is the last hour. And as you have heard that the anti-Messiah is coming, even now, many anti-Messiahs have come. This is how we know that it is the last hour. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would have stayed with us. But in order that it might be made manifest that none of them were of us. So understand, the shaking is going to come, and you're soon going to know who was of us and who was not. Who is going to stand and who is going to fall. Because when the shaking comes, then we're going to see who's really going to stand. The hirelings are going to run, and they're even going to leave their congregation, and they're going to run. Because they were hirelings. They were using the people for gain. They were using the people for money, for fame, and for fortune. And when the time comes, they are going to run, and you won't even be able to see them again. And they will have left the sheep all to be able to go to the destruction of the wolves. Because they will not be there to help the sheep, because they are going to run for their lives. So believe me when I say to you, everything is going to shake. And if you have not learned to be able to stand and crucify your flesh now, and be able to start to serve the Father and be in the center of His will, the only thing that is going to protect you is when you are in the center of His will. When you are in the ark, for you to be in the ark, you have to be in the center of the Father's will. The safest place on this earth to be. This is why many people say, but what about if these things happen and where we are, or we can't get to a place of refuge or whatever? I say the safest place for you to be is in the center of the Father's will. If you are in the center of the Father's will and you are doing what the Father has ordained for you to do, and you are being obedient to the Father, you are being willing and you are obedient, and you're doing what the Father has called you to do, and you are in the center of His will, believe me, that is the safest place for you to be. Because if you're outside of the Father's will, there's no protection outside of the Father's will. So the most important thing for you to be able to be in right now is in the center of His will. So that you can be in His ark, protected by Him. So this is really the word that the Father laid on my heart for us to understand that when He prepared these people, He was preparing them to become set apart unto Him. You've got to understand Exodus. Exodus is about understanding. When they came out of Egypt, it was everything coming out of Egypt for you to understand. You are being set apart to the Father because you are here to serve Him. And you are to look like Him, and you are to sound like Him. You are to accept what He tells you. You are to walk in what He tells you. And if you walk in what He tells you and you do what He tells you to do, that is where the safety net is. But if you're going to come out of what He's telling you to do, and you're going to do your own thing, and you're going to go your own way, that is when you're going to open yourself up to destruction as they did. And so we are going to see, as we're going to go ahead, as we're going to start going into His commands, as we're going to start going into the understanding of His 10 commands, for us to be able to understand that the Father has brought these commands because at the end of the day, He's revealing, they're for our protection at the end of the day. And this is how He wants to be served. But now we will want to change everything, because this is just where man is right now. Let's just change His commands. Let's just do our own thing. We don't want to be, we are a rebellious people. If I don't need to obey anything, then it's even better for me. Let me just do whatever I want to do, and I don't need to obey you. It's like yesterday somebody asked me. I really gave these people, I taught them these truths. And they really received it, and they were really walking these truths. And then all of a sudden, I've come back to understand they've gone straight back to everything the way it was before. What did I do wrong? I said, you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You see, we give people the truth, and people have choices to make. And this is what you've got to understand. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. When all of a sudden it becomes difficult to keep this truth, it's better to go to the way it was before, because that was easier. Because but it costs you something to obey the Father. It's going to cost you something to be sanctified. Remember something. And this is what you must understand. Let me give it to you, so as we finish off, I break this down for you. Okay, how much time do I have? I'm going to break this down for you. Okay. Yeshua has come, and that's the outer court. He gave us salvation. Salvation is the outer court. That is the outer court. That was salvation. So you coming through the door of salvation. Yeshua is the door of salvation. The Ruach of Yahuwah is to be able to teach you set apartness, sanctification, to be able to bring you into obedience to this word. Why was the Ruach of Yahuwah given? The Spirit of truth. Why? For you to come back to the truth of this word. Because you've got to come back to the truth, because you've been rebellious against the Father's way and the Father's will, and to not do things in His way. And the Ruach of Yahuwah has been given to us to bring us back into the truth that we were void of. So Yeshua was just the door to salvation. And now we've got to go through the next door. And that's the door into the holy place. So Yeshua was the door into the outer court. He was the one that came and lay Himself down at the altar. He was the one that became the Passover lamb. He's the one that gave His body on the altar, the brazen altar. It's going to cost you something. You first need to lay your life down on the brazen altar. And then you've got to wash yourself with the water. Be baptized. Be mikved. And then you're going to come into a holy place. And that is why you need the Ruach of Yahuwah. Because the Ruach of Yahuwah is what's going to bring you the sanctification. That's why you got the table of showbread. That's why you got the menorah. You cannot only just have the 7 spirits of Yahuwah. You need the table of showbread. Because you need the word. If you don't study the word, if you don't read the word, if you don't know this word, how are you going to become sanctified by this word? Just help me, Father. It's the word that's going to stand. When everything else is going to fail. When the devil comes and speaks in your mind. When the devil comes and says whatever it says. No, this is what the word says. When you're standing before something, this is what the word says. You stand on the word. And then you've got to have the Ruach of Yahuwah. Because the Ruach of Yahuwah is what's going to give you the spirit of knowledge. When you are all of a sudden going to be able to walk into a shop, like I did yesterday. I walked into a shop, and I don't know, next minute, I'm just being led by Him, because I prayed and I said, Father, let me today be your hands extended, your mouth extended. Help me, Father, to be able to do what it is that you got me to do. So all of a sudden, I walk into a shop yesterday, and this girl starts to speak to me. And we start speaking about head coverings, because she's got a beautiful head covering on her head, and I start to comment on her head covering, and I just love her head covering. And we start, and I said, why do you cover your hair? No, she likes it. She likes this head covering. She covers it at times, and other times she doesn't. It's just something that she likes. It's a dress thing that she puts on. I said, well, it looks beautiful. I really, really like it. But then the conversation went one step further. So she asks me a question. How do you know when the Father is telling you to do something? And what did we discuss? Because I told her that I also had this beautiful long hair, but the Father told me to cover it. And I start to give her my testimony, and I tell her how I've got this beautiful long hair that hangs below my bum. Well, it used to hang below my bum. And then the Father all of a sudden told me, shave it off. Shave it at number 4. Give me your hair. I said, and that was the idol that was in my life. I needed to lay down my idol. My hair was my idol, and my idol needed to go. And so I start speaking to her. And the next thing, she says, so you knew did the Father tell you a date? I said, oh, he was very specific. He even told me the date that I was going to be able to shave it. And I didn't understand, and then only afterwards I realized the significance of that date and everything around that date. And then she just stood there and she looked at me. And I said, why do you ask me the question? Because I feel the Father is telling me to shave my hair. I said, wow, okay. I said, so, do you understand why He's telling you to do this? Well, she's been wrestling. And then I could minister to her, and then I could tell her, do you not understand that the minute you do what the Father tells you to do, there's a greater authority that He's taking you to? Because when you lay down something, you lay down that which is your idol. And then she realized that her hair was her idol, and this is exactly what it is, exactly what I had to tell her. And then we got into a conversation. Next minute she's crying. The next minute I'm hugging her. The next minute I start ministering to her, and I just say to her, just do it. Just be obedient. All He asks of you is to be obedient. If you want to go to the higher level, you are crying out to Him. You want more of intimacy with Him. You want more of Him. But at the end of the day, for you to go deeper with Him, you need to become more obedient to Him. And this is what He's asking you to lay down. And the tears are running down her face, and there she's standing. And I thought, wow, Father, out of so many things I could have spoken about. See, the Ruach of Yahuwah is leading me and guiding me. But it had to start with Elsie insisting that I needed to go into that shop. I said, what do I have to go there for? Don't you have to go there? I said, I don't need anything from there. I'm sure you need something. She drops me off there. I thought to myself, what the heck? So I go in that shop, and I thought, what do I need in here? What do I need inside this material shop? I don't know. There's the same material shop. What do I need inside this material shop? I got no idea. And the next minute, Father's got a divine. So you see, she needed to be led by the Ruach, so that I could be led by the Ruach, so that a young lady could become obedient to the Father. Because she was wrestling. See, spirit and truth. Spirit and truth. We need to have the 7 spirits of Yahuwah. You need to have the word of knowledge. You need to have the word of wisdom. You need to be able to have the fear of Yahuwah. We need the 7 spirits, but at the same time, we need the word. Spirit and truth. That is sanctification. And then we will be able to go into the Holy of Holies, where we will really walk in His glory, because that's glorification. The Holy of Holies is where you will come face to face, which is where the glory is. I don't see many people walking around in the glory, because we haven't got there yet. But this is where we're going to. I pray that this makes sense to you. So may Abba Yahuwah bless you all. Abba Father, I just want to thank you for this day, my Father. I thank you for your word, and I really pray, Father, that you are really going to be able to teach us to really come to that place of we will really understand what it means to die with you, and what it means to live for you, what it means to be obedient to you, what it means to truly fear you, what it means to be able to come to a place of where we can truly be those that can be totally and utterly submitted and surrendered to you, to be able to become a living witness for you in our lives, that we can become a sign. Father, how beautiful it will be able to be, to have us to be able to be in the glory, to be able to truly shine in the darkest hour that the world is going to come into, so that we can be those that will truly shine with your glory, so that people may see the light, and that people will come to the brightness of your light that we will carry. But for that to happen, there needs to be less of us and more of you. And so, Abba Yahuwah, I truly pray that you help us, my Father. Help us that we may be able to get to the place of where we will start to become more and more obedient into what you want of our lives. I know that right now we're not understanding everything, and I speak for myself. I'm in a transitioning place. Help us in this place where we find ourselves in, where we really will be able to come to the fullness of walking in set apartness, because we truly desire to be set apart as you are set apart. And Father, please forgive us if this has not been our desire. If our desire is not a desire to be set apart, but if our desire is to walk in your signs and your wonders and your miracles and do all these things more than we desire set apartness, let us desire you and your set apart holiness more than we desire the manifestations of many things. And please forgive us where your church has made it more about signs, wonders, miracles, and walking in all of that, raising the dead and healing the sick and doing all these things. Yet at the end of the day, they're not interested in set apartness. They want the gifts more than they want the fruit. Father, I pray that in everything there's always there's a scale with balances. We can't just want the gifts and not have the fruit. We need the fruit that goes with the gifts, otherwise the gifts just puffs us up in more arrogance and pride. But the fruit will be lasting. And so I pray, Father, that you really help us in this time. In Yeshua's name, I pray, help us, I pray, in this hour with the shaking that's going to come, that we will truly know what it means to fear you and to desire your righteous ways and desire your mercy. I praise and I thank you for this in Yeshua's name. Amen.